Hi, I'm Stacy Sanseverino with Keller Williams Philly and the Philly Living Team. Thanks for watching my Move Up Home Buyers Guide 101. And in this series, we're going to look at whether or not you've already scheduled up your complimentary buyer and seller strategy session with me. And if not, email or text me to do so. And once you have, I'll send you the full guide for buyer and seller and also the link to fill out the intake form so that when we get together, I'll already have a ton of information prepared for you. Also, you can download my two favorite apps, which are my real estate search app, which protects your information. Basically, you could search for real estate anywhere on the road in North America. If you click on, request information, it goes to me. Whereas on a lot of other searches, they're actually selling your information to the highest bidding realtor. And then also, you can access all of my preferred vendors. So when you're selling or renting out your house and buying a new home, you're going to need access to inspectors and insurance people, maybe an attorney, contractors, lenders. So feel free to go ahead and download that now. So you have access to all of my preferred vendors. And this slide will reappear at the end in case you didn't have time to write it down now. All right, so first of all, welcome to my real estate family. I pride myself on having built a business based on repeat and referral business for the past 15 years. The way I look at my role is that it's a long-lasting advisory relationship, and it's based on mutual trust and respect. I'm basically putting your interests and needs above anybody else in the transaction because I want to do work for you in the future to help your family when you grow out of your home, grow into a new home, or want to buy real estate as an investment. Of course, you're my top priority before and after the sale, and I welcome you to ask me questions down the road. I just got 2 emails today asking about should they repair or replace an HVAC system, or should they install new banisters with glass on them, as far as resale goes. So I'm always happy to answer questions like that. And of course, we've got parties and workshops, so you got to come to those. So as a buyer client and a seller client, of course, you can count on me for that initial buyer strategy session. We're also going to look at your financing options. We're going to look at the sale and the purchase together and how those interact. I'll be sending you automatic listings for properties for sale to compare to your home, but also for homes that you want to buy. I'll be the point person for all your needs, so you don't need to call any listing agent or for sale by owner or anybody else. You can call me, and if I'm not the right person to answer the question, I will absolutely get you in touch with the right person. Pricing. So I'm going to price out the home that you have to sell, and I'm also going to help compare the home that you want to buy with other homes that have sold in the area so that you get the best possible deal in today's market based on my expert contract negotiations. It's not just about price. There's a lot of terms that are in that agreement of sale, and we're going to look at each one of them with a fine-tooth comb to get you the best deal when you sell and when you buy. And lastly, once you go under contract, we're going to prepare a roadmap to closing for you so that you know what your tasks and deadlines are, as well as the buyer who's buying your home are. So our mutual commitment starts with us first just meeting to discuss your goals and needs and seeing if we're a good fit. And then you decide if you'll hire me to represent you. And then we'll e-sign buyer agency and listing agency relationship agreements as needed. And we will then, this puts you top of mind and of course gives you undivided loyalty and representation and helps me coordinate the home sale and purchase for you. And of course, since I love working with people I already have worked with or already know, I would love to count you among those people that will use me year after year after year and tell your friends, family, coworkers about me, because I'd love to work with people that are like the people I've worked with, because I work with great people, and I hope that's you too. So moving up got you down. Well, number 1, here's my top tips for not staying down when you're moving up. First, don't fall in love with a new home before your buyer falls in love with your home. That puts undue pressure on you, and we will discuss that more when we meet. Also, we'll explore your settlement and timing options when we meet and also when we negotiate the contract with the buyer who's buying your home. A couple of things we can consider are, do you want to settle on the same day? Or would you rather move into temporary housing and then take an extra 3 to 6 months to find your new home and then move into the new home? We can also look for a longer closing period. So if the buyer is a flexible lease, maybe they can do a 90 or 100-day closing with you, and that gives you time to find your new house, and then you ultimately will move in on the same day. Or if the buyer is open to it, do a rent back situation where you sell the house on one day to your buyer, you become their tenant, they become your landlord, and then at a specified period later or day later, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, you buy your new home and then you move out completely. And there are forms to protect both you and the new owner in that case. And we'll explore that once we get you under contract. And then, of course, don't pay any non-refundable deposits on like a moving truck or anything like that until your buyer is past all their contingencies and they have no legal way to get out of the contract without losing deposit money. So here are the things that we're going to do in order for you as a move-up buyer. And most of this is relevant whether you're leasing your current home or selling your current home. Specifically for sales, we want to make sure we know your best case, worst case sales scenario. If we're going to rent it, we're going to also want to price it out for rental. Then we're going to get you a pre-approval for your new home and shop in that right price range based on the net proceeds from the sale or based on the rental amount that you're going to get from your house as a rental. We'll sign our buyer agency, listing agency forms. We'll see a few homes to make sure that the home that you want to buy exists. And then we will list and sell your house. And then we'll negotiate settlement date options with your buyer. So as a refresher, here's a timeline for simply the buying part of your process. So it starts with making an offer that is accepted and putting down a deposit, usually of $1,000 to $2,500 within about 3 days. So it's important to have some money in the bank for this. Then on the buy side, you've got two major processes that you're doing. One is applying for your mortgage so that within 30 days you can get approved for the purchase and the house gets approved through the appraisal process. And then on the middle section of this chart, you see the inspection period. It's a total of 17 days. That's 3 distinguished parts. First, you're going to do your due diligence and then make a request for credits or repairs to your seller. And then there's a 5-day negotiation period where they're going to negotiate back and forth with you or do their own due diligence to see what they can do in order to sell you the home. And then if they don't agree to everything you want, you have a final 2-day period to decide if you want to move forward with the house with the agreement in place, or if you'd like to terminate and get your money back and start the process over. And then on the right-hand side, you see that the seller has a process that you'll order title because ultimately the title insurance protects you. But the seller will clear title, pay off their debts associated with the property, clear any judgments, anything like that. And so they can provide you good and marketable title that's insurable. And then ultimately you'll pick the time and place of closing. Usually we do it at the office closest to the property, or we do it at my office as the buyer's agent. And then once those periods are wrapped up, usually by day 18, the inspection period will be wrapped up by then, you'll put a second deposit down. And it could be as much as the balance of 5% down. So given that you're also possibly selling a property, we're just going to want to coordinate how much money you have up front before you sell so that we make sure you have enough money for your deposits, appraisal, and inspections, which are all paid in advance of closing. Then the day of closing, we'll do the final walkthrough on the property you're buying, and then we'll go to closing. And then, of course, once we factor in if you are selling your home, we're going to factor in those time frames and discuss that when we meet individually. So as an agent, I take the consultative team approach. Means I give you your options and you make your decision. And my goal is always to help you make the best possible decision that you can make. My fiduciary responsibility is to you, putting your interests and needs above my own and anybody else in the transaction, which means I can answer you with a paragraph, not a sentence, and that anything I learn will be used to your advantage. And then, of course, my goal is to find you the right home on your timeline. So that means that we'll send you properties that are available as they come up immediately through the Bright Multiple Listing Service, where you'll have a client portal, which is super cool because you can set up your own search parameters for special searches that you might want to do. You can also do drive time searches in case you're looking for properties within a certain commute time from a place. And then also you can heart properties so I know that you want to see them, and then we'll schedule time to go see them. And then, of course, coming soon properties. Since I do have the largest office in the area, we have the most number of agents, and we have a very robust off-market division. I will let you know if I hear of any coming soon properties that might be right for you. So these are the people that are here to serve you. Me as your realtor. And then we have Hannah Park, Director of Client Relations. So she is in charge of paperwork before the sale, and then also helping keep our clients happy before, during, and after the sale. And we have Erin Whitman, our Operations Manager and Transaction Coordinator. So she's the one preparing that timeline so that you can get to closing seamlessly. And then we have Katie Lance. If you are listing your home for sale, she's our marketing director, so she'll help us get that property on the multiple listing service. And then we have the Philly Apartment Company. So if you are not a DIY kind of person, like I am not a DIY, I recommend you go to the Philly Apartment Company, and they can, advertise and find your lease or tenant, process your tenant if you're, renting out your place, and they will prepare the lease for you. And they only get paid if they actually find you the tenant, which is great. If you're renting your property and you decide not to use Philly Apartment Company and you want to do the work on your own, I can give you a suite of resources to help you do that. So some awesome perks for the Philly living buyer. So number one, as a buyer, you do not pay for the buyer agent team's commission. We get paid by the seller, which means on the seller side that you're paying for me and the buyer's agent side. And of course, we don't get paid until closing. The only thing you'll see is that we have a small administrative fee that gets paid at closing for buyers and sellers of $4.95. And that's only if we did a good job and we got the job done. Keep in mind that your first mortgage payment is always 31 to 61 days away. So if you remember when you bought, and let's say you settled in May, your first payment wasn't due until July. So that gives you a little bit of breathing room when you're renting out your space and you need a little time to move out, or whether you're selling a space and maybe you have a rent back situation. So we'll discuss that when we meet, so we can understand, the full ramifications of that excellent benefit for buyers. And then of course, should you decide to keep your house today as a rental, a lot of times people are distracted by the crunch of that monthly payment that they will still owe. Keep in mind that a $200,000 property today with 4% appreciation, which is totally a modest, typical amount of appreciation, is worth $648,000 in 30 years. So given that you'll have a tenant paying rent and your property is going to be worth more than double in 30 years, let's talk about that and see if keeping the property and turning it into a rental is right for you. And then lastly, let's say you don't have a lot of cash if you don't sell. Well, you can still use an FHA loan or a low down payment option, even as a second-time home buyer. What is traditionally called a first-time home buyer loan product actually just means as long as it's for your primary residence. So we can explore low down payment options as well. Choosing your lender is really important part of the process of buying a new home. So these are the factors that I consider when I'm helping advise somebody to use a certain lender. A good lender is somebody that's been used by you before or has been referred to you by somebody that's vetted. I want you to consider the fact that if I recommend multiple buyers to specific lenders, they're going to give you the top-notch service possible because they know that if they don't, I will have your back and they will not be getting another referral from me. So that's really key. And I develop relationships with many lenders because I want you to feel comfortable with them. Because ultimately it is a personal choice. You want them to be able to answer your questions in person if you want. You want them to be responsive. You want them to come to closing with cash. You want them to come to closing with cash because that is so critical that the funds for your purchase are with the title company. So I don't mean cash literally. But yeah, so there's a whole variety of factors that make that relationship with your loan officer and the bank and the reputation so critical to actually getting the money. So it's not just about what rate are they offering and what are the fees that they're charging. Another thing that we can help you do though is when you've decided between you like two lenders, I can help you do a break-even analysis to see which one is going to give you the best rate overall. Or the best option, because you could pay more fees up front for a lower rate, but if the break-even period is 10 years and you're not going to be in the loan for 10 years, it's not worth it. So here's some data sources that you can use in your search when you're considering your next purchase. If you're looking for resources about schools or about crime rates, these are some great websites. And then as promised, my KW search app and my Homekeeper app, here are the links again. So you can copy those down, make sure that maybe pause the video and make sure you access the real estate in the area and then also my vendors that I recommend. And then of course, Make sure you set up your buyer-seller strategy session with me, Stacy Sanseverino from KW Philly and Philly Living Team, your realtor and wealth building advisor for life.